Okay, rather than have you create the graph from scratch on this last example that we looked at, I've actually given the graph for you if you were able to print. If not, go ahead and just draw a rough sketch of this graph in your notebook. But a few things I wanted to point out to you. If you remember the ordered pairs that we had written on the page before, we had written one as 0, 0. So notice on the graph, it goes through the origin, or it has a point at 0, 0. Okay, and then we also had a point at 1, comma 35. Notice that we have labeled the x-axis with number of gallons of gasoline, and at 1 gallon, the car will have traveled 35 miles. So we have a point there. We also had another point that was 2, comma 70. So notice that one is also included on the graph. With 2 gallons of gasoline, the car could travel 70 miles. And then we also had a point where we had calculated 5 gallons of gasoline. And this one's not going to be fully visible on our graph because, well, actually, yes, it is. If you look at all the way at the edge here, this would be where the 5 was. I guess the graph needs to go up a little bit higher, but you can see that it's going to cross at 175. So I just wanted you to see that you can create these graphs on your own, but it really is helpful if you make that table of values, the input-output table, before you set up your graph. And then also, if you're creating a graph for a word problem, just like you did in the last unit during one of your apply assignments and on the assessment, make sure you have the numbers and the word labels for both the X and the Y axis. And you get to determine the scale. For example, on this gasoline one, it looks like they chose to go by ones, but then in the distance traveled, they went by 20s. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling more confident at both creating graphs and reading graphs.